Hi, welcome to my channel. And for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Linda. I run my social media pages, Black Nurse Corporate. I'm on a variety of platforms, so if you're not following me, please do make sure that you follow me. And today I want to delve deep and talk about my Saudi experience in a little bit more detail, because I recently posted on TikTok and I got so many views, so many comments, and I just really thought, well, let me just have a one-to-one with y'all, because I know that it is very a topical topic, and a lot of people are thinking about, should I transition and move across in the Middle East, or just move and work as an expat elsewhere? Now, my experience is from the UK, moving as a UK national. I'm sure there may be elements that may transfer across. So, first thing is, let me get into it. Oh, you may notice that my surroundings are a bit different. So I'm in Manchester for a conference, which I'll talk about as well in another video. But this one in particular, I want to talk about Saudi. Now, I did make a video on how I was flown out to Saudi Arabia, first class with Qatar Airways. It was a great experience. So that just talks about kind of my initial startup, but I don't think I've actually gone into detail about the process. And I think that would be quite helpful for you if you are thinking about moving to Saudi or even the Middle East. So I do have some topics that I want to cover, and let me know in the comments. If you're not following, please do follow, and let me know if there's anything else that you would like to see as well. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is culture. If you're not familiar with the culture in the Middle East, then I do suggest that you do try and do your research. From the UK, as I said, so I'm used to kind of the Western culture, but going in and immersing myself in a different culture was really useful, as it allowed me to kind of adapt and understand the locals and how things are within the Middle East. Now, things are very laid back. I'll tell you that. So if you're used to things moving progressively fast, whether it be in business, when you're out shopping, things are just at a slower pace. They are very friendly. My experience was that they're very friendly out there. I don't recall having any problems, and they're very embracing. So the nationals are really embracing. They want to understand, me coming from London, and I want to understand, more of the culture, the intermarriage, the children. There's lots of things that you may not potentially be aware of in the culture, and that's why it's so important to really do your research, understand, and don't impose your own views or your own culture, because that's the way it is done there. So don't feel like, oh, I'm going over there and I'm going to change things because this is done in this way and I'm used to do things. No, just you just have to understand that it's a different way of life, much more slow paced. So that's something that you just have to try and get used to if you are considering a move there. I'd also say you have to be respectful, because if you don't, listen, I don't want to be you if you're not, but you just have to acknowledge that you're in their realm, you're in their presence, and you're in that part of the world. So you have to be respectful, and a lot of the culture is built on respect as well, which is probably 9 times out of 10 like most cultures anywhere. But I would just say definitely be respectful and go with an open mind. You may not be used to being within an Arabic culture or even understanding Arabic. I didn't understand any of it until I got there, but I was really respectful and I really wanted to learn more. Language. So as I touched on, in the Middle East, the most common spoken language is Arabic. Now, again, I didn't speak Arabic when I went there. However, I was mindful to learn. So I did learn a lot of conversational Arabic to try and get me by. Don't ask me now. And that was really helpful within the hospital setting. I would communicate with families. I'm a pediatric nurse by background, so I'd communicate with families and just use the little Arabic I know to try and engage. And when they see you trying to speak their language, you know, they help as well. And I find that they were so helpful towards me. If they didn't understand, we'd use sign language to try and get to the crux, if there was a crux of a problem or anything. But for the most part, yeah, there's loads of Arabic books, translation books. In the hospital where I worked, we did have translators, and actually a lot of the healthcare team spoke Arabic. Even if they didn't, they weren't from the Middle East, they had learnt Arabic over the number of years as well. And I actually do love the language. And sometimes when I'm like out and in central London, where, you know, there is a lot of Arabic tourists coming through, sometimes I pick up on some of the information and try to understand what they're saying, but half the time not. But it's good to know some conversational aspects of Arabic, because that will really help you. So I'll talk a little bit about the process. So I actually saw an advert in the newspaper when I was on my way home from work, where I used to work in an NHS trust hospital where I used to work. And I thought it was my sign. I had been thinking about working in somewhere outside of the UK, but I didn't know where. And, you know, working in ED, emergency department, it was intense. It was really intense, and there was a lot of things happening, and I was just like, I want to change. And as I mentioned previously in my other video, which if you haven't watched, please do watch, I had bought my first flat in the UK, and buying it was great, but I actually couldn't afford to live in it. So I needed to kind of recoup some costs. So then I thought, well, I might as well go to Saudi and see how it goes there. So that's what I did. So saw an ad in a newspaper. I literally was sitting on the bus. I remember this so vividly because I was on the top deck of the bus, picked up the metro, and then walked to the top, opened it, and I saw this advert. I saw this advert for senior staff nurses, and like many of you, I just heard some things that weren't particularly favorable. I did have some naysayers thinking, oh, you know, I would never work in Saudi, or I'd never go there. But who am I going to listen to? Am I going to listen to people, or am I going to listen to what I want to do? And essentially, what I wanted to do came first. So I remember at the time I told my mum and my sisters, I was like, I've seen an ad in the newspaper, I want to apply for it, it's a job in Saudi. They were like, in the same breath, they kind of knew the type of person I am, so they're like, oh, okay then, you sure you want to go? You really sure you want to go? And I was like, yeah, I want to go. So I applied. I literally applied within the next couple of days, and they were quite prompt. So they got back to me literally within a week, and then they set up a face-to-face interview, because they had offices in the UK. So they set up a face-to-face interview. I met with the director of nursing. I think it was a director or the chief nursing officer. It was somebody in a senior role. And they interviewed me. They told us there and then. So they told me there and then that I got the role. And it wasn't just me within healthcare, because I worked for a large oil company. It was a hospital of the oil company. So I was fortunate to actually meet a lot of other professionals, engineers in the oil and gas industry as well on that day. So that was interesting. I also remember quite vividly where they took us. So they took us somewhere for lunch. Like, it was a really nice it wasn't even an induction, because it was more of an interview. Then they told us that we were successful, and then we went to have lunch. I don't know, maybe it was all pre-planned, I don't know. Then we went to have lunch, and from then it was just the onboarding. So I had to have some medicals. I believe I had a chest x-ray, I had bloods taken, they needed my occupational health records, or my immunization status. And actually, one thing to note, and I don't know if this is everywhere, but they seem to only have taken those with degrees. Fortunately, I had my degree then, and later on I did my master's, but they were quite they're very selective in terms of who they want to hire. So we talked about the compensation package and compensation salaries, so all the benefits and things. I'll probably do that in a separate video because then I can go into it a bit more depth. If you want to know, comment down below. I'll be a bit more transparent on that. Well, from when I was interviewed, for me it took 3 months, but I know for other people it's taken up to 6 months. I had all my documents ready, all my nursing, my nursing degree had to be attested, so I had to ensure that I contacted my university and, you know, they verified the documents and things like that. Like, it was a very rigorous process. So I remember doing all of that. And then when that all went through, they could finally give me I told them the date where I wanted to leave, and then we looked at getting the plane tickets, and that's when I was like, oh my gosh, this is what it opened up a different side of healthcare for me. Well, it just opened up how organizations can treat employees when there's money. So it was a great experience for me. I was 100% sad to leave. I had like 5 leaving dues with my uni friends, with my girls, my sisters, family. Like, I had so many leaving dues, and the gifts that I had received I'd taken with me. Now, I didn't ship anything. I didn't need to ship anything. I wanted to kind of get everything out there. I didn't want that extra hassle, and the stuff that I had for my flat I just left in the flat as well, and that was rented out. As I was elsewhere, and I won't go into too much detail about the non-resident tax, but I had to, because I had a rental property that opened up the non-resident tax scheme. I'll link it below, but obviously I had to fill a self-assessment for that, so I had an accountant in Dubai who would do that for me as well. But definitely, if you are thinking about moving abroad, make sure you get your taxes in order here. Just because it's tax-free in Saudi, you know, just be mindful if you've got any assets in the UK. Now, seek legal advice. Then obviously you're receiving any type of income, potentially you will be liable to pay tax on that income. So look into that. I don't know too much detail about it, but I sought professional advice on that. Okay, so fast forward to the day I was going, and yeah, had everything packed, had my 3 suitcases packed, and I think it did go over a bit, so I just had to keep the receipt. My weight was over on my suitcases. I had to keep the receipt, and they reimbursed me. So they were very good about that. They just said, keep everything and we'll reimburse you. It was a smooth process. Nobody went with me. Like I said previously in my other video, I did try and persuade my best friend, but she was like, nah, I'm not going with you. You're on your own on this one. So yeah, so that was one thing. In terms of kind of getting there, settling in, I had my own 1-bedroom apartment. We shared the laundrette room, so we had to do laundry in one big room, but for the most part it was all for me. And when I started work, we'd have a bus coach that would come and pick us up at a specific time and take us to work, or you could walk, so it depends. People tended not to, either if they walked, then they walked early before the sun was out, because as you can imagine, it's very, very hot. So you could drive on camp, so women could drive on camp. At the time, women couldn't drive in Saudi, but on camp they could do, and camp life was cool. I really enjoyed camp life. It was mostly expats, so we just found fun creating fun and things like that. So if you were new, there was lots of activities. There was like bowling on camp, there was a restaurant on camp, we had the gym, swimming pools. There was a lot to do on camp as well. So that kind of made time go for me as well. When I first got there, I was like, oh, okay then. But mentally it was hard, I'm not even gonna lie, because it was so different. As I told you, it's a different way of life. Things are so much slower. And I'm used to that fast pace of life in the UK. Like if I go somewhere in a bank, like 100% I'm going to be seen, or someone's going to come to me. Like when I went to the bank in Saudi, it just, everything took a while. Like you take a number, you sit down, maybe sitting down for half an hour, 45 minutes, like an hour. Like everything takes time. I cannot emphasize the different way and the slower pace of life there. Inshallah, things will get done. So that was one thing. In terms of my struggles, I think it was just being away more so from family and friends, because I had grown around family and friends for like all my life, and then to kind of suddenly uproot and then go halfway across the world, where I don't know anyone, didn't go with anyone, and I have to make new friends. I was like, oh, and I'm a natural introvert, so it was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I did it. I had to do it because there was a lot of us in the same boat where we were just like missing family. We've come to the Middle East. We don't know anybody, so we created our own. So that was really good in that respect as well. Okay, let's talk a bit about work. So I worked in a hospital, and I did shift work. So it's 7 till 7, I want to say. Yeah, 7 till 7. And that was on the wards. So I worked on the wards. If you were a like Monday to Friday nurse, if you were in clinics, the hours was like 7 till 3, Monday to Friday. But for the most part, I did shift work, which was cool. I enjoyed doing that. Did my 3 days on, 3 days off, 4 days on, 4 days off. It's fine. I had time in between to travel to Saudi, travel to Dubai. I went to Oman. I really traveled and had a good time. And that's one thing that potentially I could afford to do, was travel. Bahrain, we used to go to Bahrain on the weekends because the causeway was so close to where we were. So you literally just drive over, take about between an hour to 2 hours depending on traffic. If you were lucky to know someone who could, you know, kind of speed through and get through the barriers as a diplomat, then yeah, you'd be there in Bahrain in no time. But for the most part, yeah, the enjoyment, we just created it. We'd go to Bahrain, we'd go to Dubai, and that is what also kept me going. Fortunately, again, I said in my other video, my friends did come out and see me, which was so nice. And it was just what I needed, because I was about to go home, honey, because that was not easy. So there was that. Luxury. Now, it is like nice. When I mean nice, nice. The hotels are nice. And one thing to note, actually, in some hotels, not all of them, actually I don't know if they're in all of them, but some of the hotels that I went into, they would have like female only areas, so you could actually take off your abaya. I didn't wear an abaya all the time, but you could take off your abaya and you would be able to kind of just be free, you know. So there were some areas that did that as well, so that was nice. But anyway, going back to luxury, it's really nice. It's opulent, like the hotels, the treatment, the hospitality. Yeah, it was nice. I didn't go to Riyadh often. I think I went to Riyadh once or twice, and that's the capital of Saudi, and there were some beautiful places there. So I stayed more coastal around Dammam, so that was nice as well. They had some nice places, but traveling in the Middle East and experiencing that luxury, when I experienced it, I said, you know what, this is nice. So when I came back to London, I was like, oh man, wow, this is different. And I'll get on to the reasons why I came back to London shortly. But yeah, there's you live a life of luxury, but you also live according to your means. So if you want nice things, you can get nice things. But if you don't necessarily want to splurge, then you don't need to. Like, don't get gassed by the money, simply. A couple of other things to note if you are thinking about moving is, in terms of your visa, this is usually issued by your workplace. So my visa was issued by my workplace, and it was a single status visa. So that meant it was only me that could travel on this visa. So if you have family, or if you are the dependent, for example, if you are a male and you're the dependent, then your wife cannot work because they can't work under your company visa. And I don't know how it works if they get a job, if actually, I don't even think they can even get a job because they're dependent on your visa, and I think vice versa, but I'm not too sure how it works for women bringing their own families unless they're in a directorate or senior role, I think. But yeah, you'd have to do a bit more research. When I went, I was a senior staff nurse, and my visa was single status, couldn't bring anyone, but then again, I didn't have my daughter then at the time. So schooling, I don't know too much about schooling because I didn't need to send my daughter to school because she wasn't born then, but they do have some good schools, and some companies will fund private education, if not in the country, if not within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, then they may potentially fund boarding school elsewhere. So that's something to know, but it varies. Every company is different. There are so many different areas to explore. You've got Jeddah, you've got Dammam, you've got Riyadh, Tabuk, Ras Tanura. You've got so many areas. And one thing I would say is, if you are considering moving to Saudi Arabia, just be open-minded that it is probably a lot different to what you're used to, but once you embrace the way of life, just understand that's the way it is. You possibly be able to find that you cope a lot better. That's what I found. I would 100% go back. I'd go back in a senior position as a director. So any of you healthcare leaders out there, you're looking for a director, quality and safety, I'm your girl. I hope you enjoyed this video and just a little bit more information about my Saudi experience. If you want to know more, please like and comment down below. If you want me to tell you about salary and how compensation benefits work, which I'm sure you're probably interested to know, please comment down below so I can bring you that in the next installment. Just a gentle reminder to subscribe, like and comment on this video. Thank you.